Your plant looks healthy for weeks. The leaves are firm. The color is good. You water it every few days just like you were taught. The soil on top looks dry, so you add a little more water. Everything seems fine. Then one morning, the leaves droop. A few days later, they turn yellow. The plant feels weak. Sometimes it collapses quickly. It feels sudden. But the problem did not begin that day. It started quietly weeks earlier below the surface. Many people water faithfully every few days. The routine feels responsible. Yet roots can begin rotting silently during that time, long before leaves show any sign. There is one simple watering habit that experienced gardeners have followed for decades. Nursery growers use it year after year because it protects roots without extra effort. It is gentle. It is steady. And it prevents most cases of root rot before they begin. If this has happened to you, you are not doing anything wrong. Most plant loss from root rot comes from care, not neglect. Before explaining why this worked, it helps to understand what root rot really is. Root rot does not usually begin as a disease. It begins as a lack of air. Roots need oxygen just as much as they need water. When soil stays wet for too long, water fills the tiny air spaces between soil particles. The roots cannot breathe. At first, nothing looks different above the soil. Leaves stay green. Growth continues. But below the surface, roots are under stress. They weaken slowly. After weeks of sitting in damp soil, some roots begin to decay. That decay can then attract fungi that live naturally in soil. The fungi are not the first cause. The lack of oxygen is. This is why root rot feels sudden. The damage builds quietly over time. The plant looks fine until it reaches a tipping point. Many older gardeners water often because they care deeply. They do not want soil to dry out. They worry dryness means neglect. But steady moisture without air can be harder on roots than a short dry period. Climate also plays a role. In cooler regions, soil stays wet much longer. Growth slows in cold months, so plants use less water. In warm regions, the top of the soil may dry quickly from heat and sun, but deeper layers can remain damp for days. Understanding this slow process changes everything. The habit that prevents most root rot is simple. Water by depth, not by calendar. Experienced growers do not rely on a schedule. They do not say every 3 days or every Sunday. Instead, they check the soil below the surface before deciding. The reason is steady and practical. The surface can mislead you. The top inch responds to air and light. But roots usually sit lower. For small pots, gently press a finger about 2 inches into the soil. For larger containers, go a little deeper. If the soil below feels cool and slightly moist, it is still holding enough water. The plant is not thirsty yet. Waiting a little longer gives roots time to breathe. If the soil at that depth feels dry and no longer cool, then watering makes sense. This habit has been repeated across generations because it responds to the plant's real condition, not the date on a calendar. It adjusts naturally to season, pot size, and light. This is the turning point. Instead of asking, "When did I water last?" you begin asking, "What does the soil feel like below the surface?" Surface dryness tricks many beginners. The top layer dries first because it is exposed to air. In sunny rooms or near heating vents, it can dry in a single day. Terracotta pots pull moisture outward, so the surface becomes pale and crumbly. But roots often sit lower where moisture lingers. When you water just because the top looks dry, you may be adding water to soil that is still damp underneath. If you have done this, that is normal. Almost everyone does at the beginning. It feels logical. Dry on top must mean dry everywhere. But soil dries unevenly. In hot climates, evaporation makes the top look dry very quickly. In humid climates, drying happens more slowly, yet moisture can still remain trapped below. The finger test protects you in both cases because it checks the root zone directly. Once you understand why depth matters, the way you water can become calmer. When the soil truly needs water, give it a full, slow drink. Water gently until you see excess flow from the bottom drainage holes. This shows that moisture has reached the lower roots. Then allow the pot to drain fully. Empty any decorative tray so the pot is not sitting in water. Roots need that brief soaking. But they also need the rest period that follows. As soil gradually dries, air returns to those tiny spaces. Oxygen flows back in. This dry-down cycle supports strong root growth. Small daily sips keep soil constantly damp near the surface. They rarely reach deep roots. Over time, that pattern can encourage shallow rooting and poor airflow. If this slower rhythm feels different from what you are used to, that is okay. Plants grow in cycles. They are not meant to stay wet every day. Make sure your containers have drainage holes. Without them, excess water has nowhere to go. You do not need heavy effort. Just allow gravity to do the work. The beauty of watering by depth is that it adjusts naturally to weather. In colder months, plants grow more slowly. Light is weaker. Soil dries at a slower pace. In some homes, watering intervals stretch much longer than expected. That is normal. Checking depth prevents you from adding water too soon. In warmer seasons, growth increases. Leaves use more moisture. Soil may dry faster, especially in bright light. But even then, the depth check keeps you steady. Some days you may water sooner. Other times you may wait. In warm outdoor climates, the surface can become dry within hours. Yet deeper soil may still hold moisture. In cool climates, even the surface may look damp for many days. The habit works in both places because it responds to the plant's real need. You do not need to calculate exact days. You simply observe and respond. There are gentle early signs that roots may be staying too wet. Leaves may feel slightly soft but not dry or crisp. The plant may stop putting out new growth. Lower leaves can turn yellow one by one. The soil may have a faint musty smell. These signs appear before serious damage happens. If you notice them, pause watering and check the soil depth more carefully. Allow extra time for drying. Often this small adjustment is enough. Roots are resilient. If the problem is caught early, they can recover as air returns to the soil. You do not need to repot immediately in most mild cases. Simply change the rhythm. Even if mild root rot has begun, shifting your watering habit can prevent further decline. Plants often surprise us with their ability to heal when conditions improve. There is also an emotional side to watering. Many gardeners feel helpful when they water. It is a way of showing care. When leaves look still and quiet, adding water feels like action. But roots grow stronger when they experience a gentle cycle of moisture and air. Constant interference can weaken them. Observation is often more powerful than action. Try pausing before watering. Place your hand on the pot. Notice its weight. Touch the soil below the surface. Let the plant tell you what it needs. Over time, this becomes second nature. You may find you water less often than before. Yet your plants look steadier. Leaves stay firm. Growth becomes more consistent. Caring does not always mean doing more. Sometimes it means allowing space. I would be interested to know what has worked in your own garden. Do you usually water on a set schedule or do you check the soil first? Have you ever lost a plant to root rot even though you were trying to help it? If you feel comfortable sharing, your experience may help someone else feel less alone. There is no judgment in gardening, only learning. When we step back and look at the pattern, the message is simple. Most root rot is not caused by neglect. It comes from too much love given too often. Water by soil depth, not by date. Let the surface dry without rushing in. When the lower soil is still cool and moist, wait. When it feels dry at root level, water deeply and then allow rest. Plants need cycles. Roots need air. Growth depends on both moisture and oxygen working together. If you wait a little longer than feels comfortable, you often protect the roots in ways you cannot see. This 40-year habit has endured because it respects how soil truly works. It does not demand heavy effort. It does not require complex tools. It asks only for a moment of observation. With time, you may notice fewer yellow leaves, fewer sudden collapses, more steady growth. The quiet shift is this: do less, get more.